You heard the intro. It's time for Cons and Cons. What are you most confident in? What are you most concerned about? For each of the 4 teams from the state of North Carolina in the ACC. As always, hey, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want first? You always take the bad news. So we'll start with Duke, because we go in the order of the podium as we had it on Monday. Dennis, you can bat lead off. What are you most concerned about when it comes to the Blue Devils?
My concern has been actually a bit of a long-standing one when it comes to Duke. Right now, what's their rotation going to be like now that they, again, don't have a whole lot of depth on their bench that they use? But it looks like Caleb Foster is not playing tonight. And we don't know the full extent of his injury, how long he might be out. But nonetheless, they were really just a 6-man rotation. It was Foster, McCain, Roach, Proctor, Filipowski, Mitchell. Occasionally you get some minutes from Stewart, Blakes, and Ryan Young. But otherwise, it's mostly those 6 guys, and that's it.
Mine's the same thing. Health in a short rotation.
Yeah.
I'm very, if you gave me Duke with those 6 guys, with Roach, McCain, Foster, Filipowski, Mitchell, and who did I skip? I skipped someone there.
McCain.
Did I not say McCain?
Maybe.
McCain. That's fine.
Or Proctor. One of the other. Yeah.
Proctor. That's why I hadn't said Proctor. That would have really ruined my day. If you gave me those 6 and said they were going to be healthy and they were going to make it all the way through the next 2 months, I would be wildly confident in Duke. The hard part is that is the risk of playing a 6-man rotation. And as of like a day and a half ago, not only were they not confident Caleb Foster would be playing, there wasn't a guarantee Kyle Filipowski would be playing. And then suddenly you'd have to start somebody who, as of a week ago, wasn't even in the rotation, was playing, 10 minutes. Probably going to be Blake's, I would assume, kind of taking on that 6th-man role that Foster was playing. But if you told me they were going to go a little bigger and play Stewart, I'd be not wildly surprised. The fact is, you know what you're risking. Mm-hmm. I'll use this as an analogy. Did you see Brandon Beane, the GM of the Bills, talking at the Combine?
I did not. I did not see what he said. No.
He was asked what was his mindset when he traded up to draft Josh Allen, and he said, "Well,
oh yeah, I did see this."
He said, "Well, if it didn't work out, I wouldn't be here now anyway. And if it does, none of you would care how much I gave up to trade up for him."
Exactly.
And it was just kind of very much like, I know what I'm getting into. When John Shire limited his rotation to 6, and it did feel like maybe handful of weeks ago, he made the conscious decision of I'm not going to play 8 guys. I'm going to play 6. It's very that way, right? Well, what did you think? Are you surprised? It's no, when you play 6 guys, you know what the risk is. The risk is 1 or 2 of them get hurt, and suddenly your rotation is all thrown off. So my concern is the same concern that Duke basketball has. It's not like a big secret. It's when you play not many, 1 injury hurts you a lot more than it would if you had a 9-man rotation. So health in a short rotation is my concern. What's your confidence?
I still think it's Jared McCain's confidence.
Do you know what I put?
You said Jared McCain.
I put Jared McCain's moxie.
Oh, okay. There you go. Just another word for it. Another word for it. Because let's be honest, the fact that you have a freshman who is unfazed, even if he misses a shot or if he has a quote-unquote down game offensively in terms of a scoring output, it does not faze him at all. And really, you even see pro athletes who are 28, 29 years old that if they have a couple of bad games, it affects them mentally going into the next one. This is a young guy, 18, 19 years old, that is not fazed by anything.
The reason why I threw moxie instead of confidence or, a few other words that you could have used that seem synonymous, I love that guy wants the ball in the moments where, you need a bucket. There were a couple times in the Wake Forest game when Hunter Salas was kind of heating up, and it felt like McCain was the one that was give me the ball, I'm going to end this run, right? This 5-0 run is not going to become a 7 or 8-0 run because I'm going to go hit a 3. And he did it, right? He knocked down big shots. And sports psychologists, more power to you, right? You can really dive into the brain of some of these athletes.
That was my master's degree.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can teach what teach somebody to want the ball in the big moments.
Yeah.
I don't, and to thrive in those moments. I think there's a lot of guys that want the ball in those big moments, and I'm going like, we appreciate the suggestion, but we're going to go to this other guy over here.
And here's the thing. You'd be shocked about how many high-end athletes don't want the ball in those situations.
And you know, I look at McCain, great shooter, first of all, and I think that's a very, very tough bit of athleticism to judge, but not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, not the most explosive guy. Has a couple dunks this year, but no one's, confusing him with Russell Westbrook or Ja Morant or any of the new age guards that are flying through the air. Yet something about it, he wants the ball and he makes the shot more often. I know they lost against Wake Forest, but not by way of, McCain not coming up big. I really like his moxie. Let's go to State. They were actually above Duke when we set the podium on Monday.
That's right.
They might be a little different next week. Concern. What's your concern for the Wolfpack?
I know we talked about it in the opening segment, and this has been a concern of ours for a while. Oh, really, for me, it's what's your identity? Honestly, what's your identity as a basketball program right now?
At the beginning of the year, if you would have asked anyone, it would have been building around DJ Burns. They have this, because he played so well the second half of last year, and it seemed like that's what they were building towards. And then it just hasn't worked out, and they've since tried every other identity possible.
I'm thinking more of on another level above that. What's your program identity? Because when you watch Carolina that looks like Carolina basketball, right? Or that looks like Duke basketball. What is NC State basketball right now? What do you say? What do you look at it and say, that's NC State basketball?
Do you count transfers? Transfer you as an identity?
I mean, but that's such a new thing. Because that's only in the last 3-4 years.
And it's a very fluid thing. It's like...
Exactly.
That's like saying, my thing is I'm an iguana. Or not an iguana. What's the one that changes colors?
A chameleon?
Chameleon.
Yeah.
My thing is I'm a chameleon. It's like, oh, so you don't have a thing.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's like, you watch Kentucky, that's a Calipari coach team. Or for example, you watch the Carolina Hurricanes, that's Canes hockey. It's like
the
what
best
what
example of
is
that
it?
being Virginia.
Yes, exactly. Virginia. You know exactly what you're getting.
That's the best example of it, yep.
What is NC State basketball? What is their identity as a program right now? So I know that's not just my concern right now, but that's like an overarching concern. I just don't know what state basketball is right now.
I'm going to say this probably every single time we talk about NC State basketball until next year. It's an inconsistent rotation. I understand hot hand, right? I understand that. I think more often than not, there needs to be a hierarchy. When they scrimmage in practice and they go starters wear, flip your practice jersey to red and twos flip your practice jersey to white, I think they all stop. And Casey Morsell and DJ Horn start walking to the starters and the rest are going, Coach, which one of us will go with the starters?
Yeah.
Could be any of us. That's not good. I do think you need a hierarchy so everybody's just aware. And that's not to say if a bench player is catching fire, you're sorry, you got to go on the bench here. But it's more often than not your starters are going to play the minutes, or your starters plus your 6-man, whatever your rotation is. The inconsistency in their rotation has turned them into a pretzel a few times this year. What are you confident in?
I think it's probably the same person. Probably gonna say the same person as you are. It's DJ Horn with the basketball in his hands.
I have DJ Horn down. Even he though at the last 2 games has when he was on that 6-game streak where he was scoring 25 plus every game. It was easy to say DJ Horn. It's a little more difficult now. Jaden Taylor and Casey Morsell probably should have shot more threes than they did against Florida State, and maybe that meant Horn took a few less. But I just think it's hard. He's been the engine, and I'm still confident in him. You kind of wish that the season would have gone differently for a senior that seems to go about things the right way and is really playing well. And I don't know if he'll get the recognition for it because of the tough season that his team's having. UNC, North Carolina Tar Heels. I'm gonna first of all set the stage here.
Okay.
In the office, there's a big UNC fan. I'm always fascinated by the questions that fans of certain teams ask me, right? Because you may be surprised to know this. As a sports radio host, people always want to come up and ask, talk about sports, right? And big UNC fan in the office sees me in the hallway, and he goes like, "Hey, my team, is it panic time yet?" That's an interesting question to ask if you are the number one team in the ACC who's clinched, I believe, not just a bye to Thursday, but a top 2 seed.
Probably.
It seems like that's a wild question to be like, "Hey, man, how bad is it?" And it's like, but that's what UNC is feeling after the last couple of weeks, handful of games. So there is concerns for UNC. Dennis, what are your concerns?
To me, it's some of the details I think have lacked over the last few games, and it's showing up in different spots. For example, we'll actually go to Monday's game against Miami. They struggled multiple times. I think it was 4, if not 5 times they turned the ball over just trying to make an entry pass into the post or Armando Bacot. I'm like, that's a small detail that people don't think about. Like, okay, you just throw the ball inside. Well, there's actually a process to actually get the ball inside to Bacot inside. It's the angle in which you're setting up your pass. It's the, how you approach everything. There's so many different details that go into that. So it's small things along those lines that sometimes they lack.
That's actually one of the main concerns, because I listen to all the podcasts, all the coaches and everything. College coaches, if you want to get a college coach just ranting, bring up the skills learned in AAU basketball, because AAU's become such a NBA-style game, one-on-one, ISO.
It's just play games.
I need my highlight film to look good. One of the things college coaches say is perimeter players don't know how to make a post entry anymore. Because in AAU, every guy that's 6'7" and above wants to be a guard. If you're 6'10", you want to be a guard, so you're not posting up. And perimeter players, they aren't looking to pass; they're looking to shoot. So nobody knows how to throw a post entry pass, and it feels like you get a 4 or 5 star guard who's got all the talent in the world. You get him in there for camp, and you're like, no, here's all right. You got to get the angle right. You can bounce pass. You can throw it to the opposite hand. You can try to go over the top if they're fronting. All of those things you just said, all of those details. College coaches lament that they don't know them anymore.
And I think it's also, part of that as well leads into sometimes situational awareness, and I think that's something that is actually. And I know you're a big fan of youth sports, and I've noticed this in youth sports a lot during my time coaching lacrosse, is that the lack of situational awareness from athletes nowadays, young athletes, is growing significantly, and it's actually becoming a problem, whether it's not knowing in football, like what to do in a situation of down and distance, or basketball when you're up this many, or whatever it is.
But give me the ball and watch what I do with it.
It's just, exactly, there's so much of that because none of those things are really being taught.
Yep.
That's a big concern. It's just go out and you just play games. You just play games. And it's like, all right, are you actually teaching? So it's just, that's a larger conversation. But for me, sometimes it's some of the small details with UNC. Again, it's a nitpick thing, but you never know. If you're down 2 and you're trying to feed the ball into Bacot, you can't get a good entry pass inside. It's a turnover and it's going back the other way.
What is your? Actually, I haven't said my concern.
What's your concern?
My concern is close wins despite great individual performances. You got 18 from Cormac Ryan, 6 threes from not your lead guard, right? Like not your best scoring guard, and it was close at the end against UVA. You got 42 against RJ Davis, and it's close against Miami at the end. Those, if you get 6 threes from Cormac Ryan, that should be like a sweet. Got this.
Nailed it.
Especially in a low-scoring game. If you get 42 from R.J. Davis, it should be like, thank goodness he scored 42. We get to relax for the last 6 minutes. But they were close. Missed free throws, turnovers, fouls, letting the other team get into a rhythm. It's concerning when you're getting really good individual performances and the team isn't playing as well around them. Confidence in UNC. What do you got?
My confidence in them is they're actually the versatility of their lineup. And the reason why I say this is because I know I brought this up last week, and I think this is the reason why they were able to play a team like Virginia and win at Virginia's game. This is the reason why that despite not having the offensive production from guys in the paint like Bacot and Ingram, that they still were able to get the big-time scoring effort from R.J. Davis is because their lineup allows them to have fluidity in regarding to who they're playing. They can still, if they want to go big, they can put Withers and Washington alongside Bacot and have Ingram at the 3. If they want to go small, they can do that too. I think there are times that we saw both Tremble, Davis, Cadeau on the floor the other day against Miami. They can go small if they want to. So I think that's something that the versatility of their lineup allows them to adapt to any of these games that we've seen, whether it's against Miami, Virginia, or a fast-paced game like we saw against Duke.
That's a really nice way of saying Harrison Ingram can play the 2 through the 4.
Basically. Basically.
And in a pinch, probably a small ball 5.
Yeah, he probably could, actually.
Mine is the big 3. Bacot, Davis, Ingram. There's kind of been 3 sections of the season, right? There's been the section where I think Ingram was on the low, the most important player on the team. There was the section where R.J. Davis caught fire and was the best player on the team. And then there was the section where Armando Bacot remembered who Armando Bacot was, woke up and was the best player on the team. It's nice to have 3 different guys that can kind of lead you in a big game. And it's not all pressure on any one player, right? It's not, well, this player has to play like an All-American or else they're going to lose. If like 2 of those 3 show up and play really, really well, I like their chances. So the big 3 is my confidence. Let's jump to Wake Forest. Wake Forest was number 1 on our podium this week. Again, I think they'll be in a different spot next week. What are you concerned about for Wake?
It's simple. Away from the Joel, road games in the ACC. They only have 2 of them. They're a better team than Notre Dame. They just simply are. You go and you lay an egg up there in South Bend. And it's a follow-up after you play Duke and you got such a big win, which the hangover after beating Duke is a real thing. But it's them on the road. Simple as that.
Consistency is my concern.
Yeah.
This is why weeks ago I quit Wake. I quit. I said I'm done with this. I quit Wake Forest. And I have to admit, there have been games where I go like, geez, do I regret quitting Wake? Do I regret for this? Was that a bad move? Because they make a thing like winning against Duke and looking like you deserve to win against Duke, looking like Duke played well and you just played better against Duke. And I'm like, man, I quit them a while ago. Was that premature? And then every single time, the next game, I'm like, no, that's why, right there, because they can't do it game in and game out. Their good is so darn good, but it never lasts. It is always they do great for 3 days and then 3 days their consistency is maybe the most concerning thing I have for any of the 4 teams, and it's so frustrating. This is how frustrated I am, and I'm already out. I'm not invested in them, right? I've for a long time I was driving the bandwagon for Wake because I looked at their starting 5 and I said I love these players in those roles. I love what they're being asked to do. From the moment Efton Reed became eligible, I was really excited. You can go back and find the podcast. You can find the YouTube clips of me saying all of this. And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm out. I'm just out. I'm tired of getting my hopes up every time they play well, only to be shoved off the cliff the very next game. And I'm glad I did that, because I can't imagine how unbelievably frustrated I would be today if I hadn't quit them before the Duke game. Because that Duke game would have made me go all the way to the ceiling, and then the Notre Dame game would have made me fall hard back to the floor, into the dungeon. What's your confidence in Wake Forest?
Wake Forest at home. They're undefeated, 15-0. It's simple as that. Simple as that. Wake Forest at home is just a completely different force.
Mine is their short-term good.
Yeah.
You're pointing at me. Why were you pointing
I was about
at
to
me?
say 2 of their final 3 games are at home. They're at Virginia Tech this Saturday, then Tuesday next week, home against Georgia Tech, and then a big one. They are at home against Clemson on Saturday the 9th, just before the ACC tournament. A win over Clemson, which is a tournament team right now, would help boost them even further.
So they'll have a ton of momentum going into the postseason from playing at home, and everyone will think they're going to be good, and we'll be sitting here going, their consistency won't hold up. And like I said, I like Steve Forbes. I love a coach that is different and is a breath of fresh air, doesn't just give coach speak. I really enjoy Steve Forbes. He's always good for a clip, and you may be surprised. People in the media love the guys that are always good for a soundbite. I really like some of the players. I can't tell you how frustrating it is that I'm out on Wake Forest, but I am out. I am out. I am out. I am out. I said this, like Hunter Salas being introduced to maybe the casual countrywide college basketball fan with that big game against Duke. 2 of 11 for 7 points against Notre Dame. He was 11 of 13 for 29 points against Duke. That's wildly efficient, wildly good. You're not going to do that every game, but 2 for 11 for 7 points, where if you score 16, you probably win easily. When they're good, they are good, but the consistency is wildly frustrating. And the Duke hangover. We've now seen it twice. Carolina had kind of a similar deal where it was a massive win over Duke, and then starting the next game, just that was me doing like air out of the balloon, not another sound that may sound like that. The hangover is real. That was such an emotional victory. They probably felt validated with the win over Duke, and then that validation given right back for Notre Dame. Wildly frustrating.